I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together, we're Lippy and Grumpy do podcasting.
In this episode, many apologies, Leodama roulette, Gorilla Glue update, and cats on Zoom.
Now, Lippy, I've got a few apologies from last week's episode.
I think you do.
Yes, there are. So there were some odd noises in the latter part of the recording, and I think it was me banging the desk.
Or possibly me banging my desk. Or was it your soundtrack it was coming from?
It was coming from my soundtrack, yes. So hands away from the desk today. So
yeah.
Hopefully none of that. Also, for some reason, you come through a lot louder than I do on the tracks.
I'm just naturally a loud person, though, so...
Oh, this is magnificently loud.
Oh.
So, to the point where I can't see the waveform very well for me.
Oh, interesting.
What I was doing was cutting out silences, and when I listened to it one last time, realised I got a little bit over-enthusiastic with the cutting. So I've worked out how to change the scale on mine so I can see the beginning of words, because that's what I was cutting out. So hopefully this week's will be a bit better.
Yeah. It just obviously knows which voice is more interesting, so it makes it louder.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was that. Maybe. And I have to apologise to Davros for accusing him of being slightly inebriated while sending the week before last email. Apparently he's been sober since or dry as he says, so maybe the chair's got a bit, lacking a bit of oil since the 4th of January.
Yeah, that's quite impressive, to be honest.
It is quite impressive. There is an end date, but we're not sure what it is. I would imagine it's when we can get back in the local pub.
Oh, hopefully soon.
Well, let's hope. Anyway, apologies done. At the end of last week's show, I mentioned something about digging a hole and jumping through the earth, which, on reflection, was a bit ridiculous.
Yes.
Or was it?
Yes.
I did a little bit of research, and I found two articles particularly. One was very mathematically about whether this is possible or not. So you have to put aside the fact that you're going through something that's very, very hot.
Yes, obviously.
Which is, you haven't got to get far down before it's going to scorch a bit. So that aside, there's all sorts of freaky maths bits about the Earth rotating and you banging into the side of the tube and all sorts of stuff. But the most interesting thing is when you pop out the other side, due to some freaky physics, you'll end up bouncing back up the tube again. Don't ask me why. I'll put links if you're desperate to find out more. But basically what they're suggesting is you would just forever be going through this tube from one side to the other and then bouncing back again. So it's possible, but ill-advised.
Yeah, just a grab and roll, really. Get someone waiting for you.
Don't try it at home, basically. Anyway, you mentioned about haircuts and being nabbed by the police for having a haircut.
I did.
I tried to find the source of this and couldn't, but I did find that 31 Met police officers have got into a bit of trouble for having a haircut at work.
I feel like that is slightly different. The same as the footballers and the rugby players, they're probably still getting their hair cut, but it'll be one person cutting the hair for the team or one person cutting the hair for that force. Like, if you've got a very buzzed cut and you now have long hair, that is going to slightly affect how you work.
It does seem a bit extreme, particularly to fine them £200 each.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit unfair.
It seems a bit excessive, but then, I don't know, there has been
because it's very obvious that some rugby players have had their hair cut.
Well, it could be their partners doing it at home.
Yeah, true, that is true. Same for the police people, though.
Yes, except they were found having a marathon haircut session. So, so that was...
I guess that's the safest way to do it, really, isn't it? All in one go.
Who knows?
Nah.
Who knows? So we didn't talk about cars last week, so I'm going to talk about them this week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, more concept cars. And this time it's from the 1990s. I found a source of them on Classic and Sports Car magazine website, which I'll share. And they're cool cars. They're absolutely fantastic. It's designers gone mad, basically. And they're glorious. So if you'd like a bit of glorious car design, then have a look at the link that's on our website.
Thank you.
And then, what?
I was saying thank you for providing the link. I don't have much else to input when it comes to cars. I was just being polite.
No, that's very true. Very true. And then I was making some breakfast of a piece of toast with some Leodama cheese on it. Mm. And I had a bit of an epiphany about Leodama cheese.
Yeah.
And I came up with the concept of Leerdammer roulette.
Oh, what's that?
You open the packet of Leodama, and for those of you that have never come across the cheese, it's cheese with lots of holes in it.
Yes.
And I looked at it and I thought, there is almost as much air in there as there is cheese, hence the Leodama roulette. So whichever packet you open, you have a look. Are you going to get mostly cheese or are you going to get mostly air, or obviously somewhere in between? Mm. Which could be quite disappointing. If you're fancying a nice bit of cheese and 50% of it is air, going to be a bit of disappointment really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a lot you can do about that though, because the cheese has holes in it.
I went onto the Leodama website because I wasn't sure whether it was sold by weight or slices. And being too lazy to walk downstairs and have a look in the fridge, I decided to turn to the internet.
Obviously.
Anyway, on their frequently asked questions page, without an apostrophe in the wrong place, I hasten to add, there is, how do we make sure each slice is the same weight with all the holes? Aha! So it turns out they have very, very sophisticated slicing machines that looks at the amount of holes on the incoming piece of cheese and adjust the width accordingly.
That actually makes sense, because I had a packet the other day and one of the slices was a lot thicker than the others and it had different holes. It was like the last one, so it was obviously like from a different batch of cheese, and it was a lot thicker. So that's interesting, that actually. And
what's more, I quite like a tour of the Leodama factory when we can get back out again.
I'm so there for that.
I am going to contact them and see if we can do a Lippy and Grumpy broadcast from the factory.
Yes. Do you think they'll let us bring flasks of wine as well?
Well, I don't see why not. We can always sit in the car park. We're bound to get some freebies, aren't we? A couple of packets of Leodama and a bottle of Blue Nun. Yes,
let's do it. We'll need to appoint a designated driver.
Oh, yeah, or Uber or something. I don't know where they are, actually. I've just looked it up, and Leodama, not surprisingly, is made in the Netherlands.
Oh, well, that'll be a nice holiday then.
Well, it'll be a nice trip.
I might have to go and buy some cheese now. That counts as an essential shop, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Just some Leodama cheese.
Does. Yes, even if it's just Leodama and a bottle of Blue Nun.
And a box of coleslaw.
And this week I came across the work of a gentleman called James Fridman, and I hope I've pronounced his name correctly, who has the most amazing Photoshop skills. He's got this amazing niche where people will send him one of their photographs and ask him to adjust it in some way. The problem is that he then interprets that completely differently from the intended result. One of my favourite examples is there's a couple on the sandy beach, and in the background there's a lady on just by the shore. One says to James, "Could you please remove my friend from the background?" Which he does, and then places her right in front of the couple on the sand, which clearly is not what was intended, but has actually followed the instructions.
That's so funny.
His Instagram feed, and we'll have a link on our website. It's just full of these.
It is spectacular.
Brilliant. It is spectacularly good. There's no two ways about it.
If you sent a photo and you also sent a very detailed description of what you wanted, like full pedantic, see if he could still sort of work around it.
That would be very interesting, to be very specific, and see if you get back something a bit daft.
And I wonder if he does send back the funny and the actual picture that they've asked for.
No, I think it's just the funny one. He's built up this persona on the internet for doing amazing bits of Photoshop work by following blindly the instructions.
Yeah.
So highly recommended checking that out. It is it's spectacular, and he pops up every now and then. And he was in the press last week, which is why I spotted it.
I feel like that's hours of scrolling though through his whole Instagram, just looking at every single one of them. Because they're all slightly different as well.
They are very different. And I think you would probably have to restrain yourself a little bit. Otherwise, your buttocks would go very numb on the toilet. So you had a bit of an incident this week, I believe.
I did.
Giving blood?
I did. I don't know if any of our listener has ever given blood.
Listeners, be positive.
Sorry, listeners have ever given blood, but they put you in this kind of bucket chair, and then it moves like back so that you're laying down whilst you're giving the blood, and you have this rest for your arm to go on where the needle is. I won't describe it in too much detail for those who are a bit squeamish. But afterwards,
that'll be me.
Oh, I sent a photo through to you.
Yeah, I know. I passed out.
Oh God. Anyway, so after they've taken your needle out, you obviously have to put pressure on where it is just to help clot it. So they give you this little cotton bud and you put the pressure on, and then they put the plaster on, and then these two like tubey things, tape those on, and that has to stay on for 6 hours. But when they first put it on, you have to, so your left arm is the arm that's had the needle. Your right arm then has to hold pressure onto the spot where the needle went in whilst you're trying to get out of this chair. So
now I understand the problem.
You have no hands. It's not easy on a good day, really. They do pop you back up a bit because they do it slowly to make sure you don't pass out. And then the technique I've gone for in the past that has usually worked quite well is shuffle forwards until you kind of get to the edge of the bucket, and then you like jump and slide out at the same time. It's a bit of a weird movement, whilst no hands, obviously, because you're holding onto your arm. So I went to start this process having forgotten I was wearing fake leather trousers on a plastic chair. So I went to slide and just didn't move. And I went again and just didn't move, and looked at the nurse, and she looked at me, and I just burst out laughing. And I was like, I think I'm stuck. She was like, oh, do you need some help? And so she's wetting herself laughing. I'm wetting myself laughing. I had to take my hand off. I had to use both my hands to get out of the chair, which they don't like you doing, but I was so stuck, and she was laughing. She was like, I wouldn't wear those trousers next time. And I just walked off laughing.
That was helpful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'd spotted that.
Yeah, next time I won't.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit like the dentist chairs can be a little bit like that, although they have the advantage of being, they tip you up before they throw you out.
Yeah.
But I find, because I've got quite long legs, is my legs hang over the end, and then when I try and get out, I start crashing into all sorts of appendages from the chair, like the tray of instruments and what have you, and it's all a bit awkward. Really.
All of it. They're just so buckety, these chairs, that they're hard enough to get out of in normal trousers, let alone sticky trousers that don't allow you to shuffle.
Why are they that shape?
I think it's more for support in case you pass out.
Not sure that's likely, but that's a reasonable reason.
What, passing out after giving blood?
Well, no, falling out the chair. No, I understand you pass out.
I see.
But falling out of the chair when you've passed out seems a little unlikely. On the basis that trolleys in hospitals are flat.
Well, yeah, but you're lying down then, aren't you?
Yeah, true.
Whereas you're trying to stand up.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just made it very hard to stand up, which must then increase the number of pass-outs.
Yeah. Exertion. Who knows? But the best bit is the biscuit after. I had a club orange this time.
That's quite posh.
Yeah, it was. I was impressed. They don't normally have such fancy biscuits. They normally have the little packets of custard creams, but in the little clear plastic packaging, rather than like a packet of custard creams, just like your cheapy ones.
Yes, I'd expect a packet of Happy Shopper custard creams.
Because the crisps they have are rogue crisps. They don't have fancy crisps. I might have a packet of crisps next time. I'm booked in for June.
Do you have to book in your snack as well at the same time, or do you just have
No, it's a first come first. Actually, to be honest, the amount of snacks they have is ridiculous.
Could you say, I'm still feeling a bit faint, I better have another 3?
I've had at least 3 before. When I used to go in Cranley quite a lot, and like they start to recognise you a little bit, and like you have a little chat, and they ask how you are, and I was sat down, and she was like, "Oh, go on, you can have another one if you want to, because you have to wait a certain amount of time before you're allowed to leave."
So tip is look faint and gobble them down quickly.
Yes, yeah. And just ask. They're so lovely. They would happily give you more snacks.
Yeah, until you become known as the blood bank biscuit snatcher.
I'll let you know how my next one goes because it's at a different venue. They might not be as
that would be interesting.
as giving out.
No, they might
with
not be,
their
or they may.
snacks.
Maybe your reputation would have preceded you.
Oh. I made friends with the nurse, though, that stabbed me. He was lovely. Yeah, it told me I had deep veins.
Ooh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's not a good thing for giving blood, apparently. Because he was...
No, actually.
Because I have a lot of needle scars on my arm from where I give blood, which... there's a whole other funny story about that. So I still get the scars from the thing, which is not that normal either. But it's because my veins are so deep, they have to like really shove the needle in to get to my veins. Sorry for anyone who's squeamish, but they always hit the vein and the blood always comes out. It's fine.
Oh, that's okay.
Didn't beat my record this time though. It took me 7 minutes.
Anyway, away from the blood bank on the ski slopes, I'm not sure where this was. A friend of mine sent me a link to a BBC Sports page about this astonishing accident with the men's downhill. This guy's doing, was it 90 odd kilometres an hour? Was it faster than that? It might have been faster than that, actually. And he basically stumbled as he's going around this corner and somehow managed to recover. It's the most amazing recovery I've ever seen in my life.
It was
spectacular.
so
We'll leave a link
impressive.
on the website. Unbelievable. Now, I'm very good at the beginning bit where you stumble, but the recovery, I've never been able to manage.
When you catch a ski and he did a full front roll as well and then landed on his skis backwards. It's very impressive.
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but it is worth watching because it is an amazing recovery. And you start off when you see it, you go, oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt. Oh, blimey. How did he manage that? I mean, he obviously had hurt himself a bit.
Yeah, it looked like he was in pain when he finished, but not as much as he could have been.
No, indeed not. And in other shock news last week was Weetabix issuing a suggestion that you eat them with baked beans.
Oh, that literally made me laugh. This is what I do love about like a kind of new marketing and new social media marketing is there is this kind of funnier approach where companies don't have to necessarily be sensible all the time. And some of the responses from the other companies on this have just been absolutely hysterical.
Well, presumably all the Twitter accounts are owned by the PR companies.
Yeah, including one from the police, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a police company station that got tagged on it that had a very funny response.
What an amazing piece of marketing, though. Yeah, I mean, the pure genius. Whoever came up with that should be getting a good bonus this year, I think.
Definitely.
And it'd be interesting to know how many people have tried it with baked beans.
I really want to try them with baked beans, but I'm not a massive fan of Weetabix. But I think that's the milk side of it. I don't like it when it gets all milky and stodgy.
Oh, I quite like that.
Do you? I think also Mum and Charlotte tend to have Weetabix with warm milk, and I honestly couldn't think of anything worse than warm milk, like on a Weetabix.
Diesel?
Still think I'd rather have diesel than warm milk on Weetabix. Warm milk and cereal, the smell, no, not happy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very odd. Yes, because I quite like it. And in fact, I don't think I could eat Weetabix with baked beans. It'd be too dry, unless they were very runny beans.
Well, if it was hot beans, it would soak in, wouldn't it?
Depends how you do the beans. If you do it James May style, in a saucepan until they're virtually burnt, then the beans just sort of rough up a little bit. For me, it's a much better way of doing it in a saucepan than microwave.
Oh yeah, always.
That's a topic for another day. Anyway, last week we had a couple of topics. We spoke about the lady who'd had the mishap with the Gorilla Glue. And in Davros's weekly email, he seems to think that Gorilla Glue is made from gorillas, which I can assure you it is not.
I think the purpose is that it's as strong as a gorilla.
Yes, absolutely. It's a marketing term. It's not. It's not a list of ingredients. No.
I can imagine they wouldn't be allowed to sell it anymore if it was made from gorillas.
Well, I don't know. Who knows? But I wouldn't have thought so somehow at all. And he also talks about the dead cats we spoke about last week and whether they bounce or not. And he then made a very, very sensible suggestion that it could be tackled by the Mythbusters team.
It could be, but that's still dropping dead cats.
Yes, it is not pleasant.
I don't think anybody wants to be trying to figure that one out.
Well, in the name of science.
Oh, yeah. I think you may get a few reports on that. Who's the people that you report TV shows to? Off-cam, whatever they're called.
Ofcom.
Ofcom. That's the one. Yeah, Ofcom will be getting a few letters of disapproval.
Yes, but I think they do for whatever's on, to be honest. There's a certain element of society that will complain about just about everything.
Yes, I think Holly Willoughby got a few for her low-cut dress.
Oh, yeah. Why? Just the why. If you don't like it, turn over.
Yeah.
My
I think she looked amazing.
Also, Davros Dobbs in Orange Marshall 2 for never cutting your own hair. I don't know what's happened there. The last time I saw Orange Marshall 2, he had very long curly locks. Presumably he hasn't got any of those anymore. So it would be interesting to see him, hopefully, in a few weeks' time. So going back to the Gorilla Glue, I see the young lady has been sorted out. She started a crowdfunding type page to help with removing this stuff because it's a serious incident at this point. And a plastic surgeon stepped in and did it for free.
Oh, that's nice.
He's obviously had experience of this. The young lady, I can't remember her name, had raised about $20,000. And the surgery would have cost something like $12,000, but obviously that was free. She had to fly to the other side of the state, so she took the money out of the $20,000 for that as expenses, and the rest she's given to charity, which I think is highly commendable.
Oh,
so
yes, my opinion of her has changed now.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, the problem with I'm going to sue them is you don't know whether it's the media picking up something that's not really there.
Or just an initial reaction. Like, obviously, in the moment, the way people react is very different to when they logically think out what has happened.
Yes, absolutely. And, the comment, why doesn't it say that on the packet when you're trying to deal with stuck down hair, could be translated as, I'm going to sue them.
Yeah, and that's definitely a panic comment, isn't it? Why did I do this? Why is it on there? Oh, bless. Well, that's a nice ending. That is a very nice ending to that story, actually. I like that.
And Zoom is just the gift that keeps on giving as far as I'm concerned. So this week we've had, I think it was a meeting between a judge and a lawyer in America. Yes. And obviously the lawyer had been fiddling with his Zoom settings. And I didn't know you could do this, but he transformed himself into a cat. So there's actually a cat speaking on the screen. Unfortunately, he couldn't work out how to turn it off. So he was left with the entire Zoom meeting as a cat, for one thing, and kept apologising and assuring the judge that he wasn't actually a cat.
I mean, it was quite obvious that he wasn't a cat, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Cats can't work Zoom. They can't put the passcode in.
They also can't talk.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. Yes, very good. So that tickled me.
There's been a few things on Radio 1. They've obviously picked up the cat Zoom trend, and they had a few people calling in telling stories of times that they got stuck with a strange face on Zoom, and they've actually started a thing where they try and persuade people to do an important meeting as a cat and see what happens.
Yes, there is a company where you can get a goat to join your Zoom meeting.
You can.
Which is brilliant for a $5. That's got to be worth doing at some point.
To be honest, that's not the strangest thing I've heard in my time.
Probably not the strangest thing you've said either, to be honest.
No, I've... Did you know that you can hire alpacas dressed up as a bride and groom to attend your wedding?
No, I did not know that.
That is a thing that you can do.
Why?
Who knows? Honestly, who knows?
That is astonishing. People
that are a bit obsessed with alpacas, I assume.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they are quite a lovable animal. And whilst we're talking of Zoom, there's an advert for a kitchen company on at the moment where you have some sort of kitchen dread because it's in such a state that you put this really garish Zoom background on and people go, no, you can turn that off now, that's too bright. Why don't these people with dodgy kitchens put the background of a kitchen?
That would make more sense, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it? Grab a photo from one of the kitchen websites, stick that as your background, job done.
Pretend you're in a really luscious, fancy kitchen.
Much cheaper. really a hell of a lot cheaper. So that's my advice to you. So I've actually got down to the allotment this weekend and spread another 12 bags of organic compost out, which was quite nice to do. The ground was absolutely frozen though. We were walking on it to spread the thing, and it was not moving at all. But we've had a fair bit of rain today. It's quite a bit warmer, so hopefully that's now pulling those nutrients down into the soil. So we've got a nice weekend this weekend, so we might go and do an hour or so down there. That's the thing though at the moment. When it's a nice weekend, the ground does tend to be frozen because it is still rather cold. Yes, I think the temperature for this weekend is a little bit higher, though. So that'll be nice. Yeah, because we were out for about an hour, and that was long enough, to be honest, that the wind was whistling through. So have you any other news for the week? No other news, really. It's been a bit of a quiet week, apart from a very fun Zoom quiz on Saturday night. That was a bit too much fun. That was a bit too much fun, to be honest. Yes, Sunday morning wasn't particularly pleasant, I have to say. Well, I had to sleep on the sofa, because there was no way I was sleeping in the bedroom next to the drunken mess I had as a partner. I thought, get a better night's sleep on the sofa. Yes, I was a bit, crusty on Sunday morning. Fortunately, I had taken a big glass of water up, so I had a big gulp at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Saved yourself. Yeah, that was much, much better. But it was good fun. These are some friends we met on the Italian job in 2017 and then 19, and as part of that trip you have a gala dinner at the end, and the 2019 was all sorts of anniversaries. It was 60 years of the film and 50 years of that and 10 years of this, and importantly 30 years of that charity run. The gala dinner was at Lancaster Hotel in London, which was in the original Italian job when Charlie Croker comes out of prison. That's first place he goes to, and it was fantastic. We had Judge Rinder there, who stopped and chatted for ages about. Who is a lovely man, actually. He is a lovely man, and gave a fantastic speech about helping. The charity involved is Buttle, which helps disadvantaged children in the UK. Very interesting charity. We'll stick a link on the website to it. They do great works, and they're funded slightly differently. So Mr. Buttle, who set it up, or Reverend Buttle, actually managed to amass £1 million before he passed away, and that chunk of money has funded the charity since then. And so it doesn't cost them anything to run the charity. So everything that gets donated goes to help children, which is fantastic. Amazing. Yeah, brilliant. So we got on quite well with them, and we've met up a couple of times since then and decided to have a Zoom quiz, which descended into pretty much anarchy, I would have said. I think it did. Fairly quickly. There were some very dodgy questions in there. Some dodgy questions and some dodgy remarks being made. Oh, I don't remember any of those. But yes, I think we organised a barbecue for when we come out of lockdown, which I think might be still a bit cold for. Well, it depends when we come out. True. He's one for wearing shorts, so yes. So barbecuing at any time of year, I guess, is probably okay. Well, we've got a number of barbecues lined up. We've got one with DJ Finn. So yes. A vegan fest. A vegan barbecue. I forgot about that one. As long as I'm allowed to bring regular wine. Yes, I think we had a conversation about that, and he tends to turn a bit of a blind eye, which you can understand. So do you have a top tip for us then, Lippy? I do. It is a slightly rogue one. It's for all of those. Rogue one. It's for all of those people who are currently in lockdown alone and feeling a bit alone and just need a little bit of not just human contact, because this technically isn't human contact, but just a bit of a feeling that there's somebody else there. So get a glove, fill it, well, preferably like a plastic, like a cleaning glove. Like a marigold glove? Yes, like a marigold glove. Fill it with warm water, and then put it on top of your palm, and it will feel like someone's holding your hand. That's quite sweet, actually. That is. I thought so. It's nice if you need a little bit of feeling like you're not by yourself completely. Presumably there is a sweet spot at which it's a bit like a hot water bottle when the water starts to get cold and it then becomes unpleasant. Yes, that's a very nice thought. Or it's too hot and it scalds you to start with. Yes, very good. So I have a fun fact for the week, which is a lot less controversial than last week's one. I'm sure I can pick it apart. Well, you can't, because it's a fact. Okay. the national animal of Scotland is the unicorn.
I knew that, actually, strangely. I think it was on a quiz. But yeah, how cool's that? That their national animal is a unicorn.
Yeah, very. Chosen because of its association with dominance and chivalry, as well as purity and innocence.
And I also think Scotland is quite like a mythically place. Obviously not actually, like Scotland is real, but like it's where you've got like the Loch Ness Monster and all the mountains and stuff. I feel like you could find a unicorn there if you really tried.
So out of those two things that you brought up, the Loch Ness Monster, which is not real, the mountains are real. There's really mountains there. That's not a myth.
No, but I know. Do you know what I mean? It's like a Lord of the Rings type setting. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like pretty.
Very pretty indeed. If you've done the North Coast 500, you'll know exactly how pretty that coastline is. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.